Welcome to episode 18 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. Arena.
In this week's episode, the Enterprise pursues an aggressive alien vessel responsible for the destruction of a colony. When both ships are halted by a more advanced species, the alien captain and Kirk must resolve their dispute in one-to-one combat using materials found on the surface of an uninhabited asteroid. Can Kirk prevail, or will the superior physical strength of his opponent prove decisive?
Anything on intelligent life forms?
Nothing specific, Captain. Unscientific rumors only, more like space legends.
Welcome, Ian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. How are you feeling?
Legendary.
Legendary. That's good. Space legendary.
Indeed.
You enjoy this one?
Yeah, although from what I understand from what you've mentioned before, this is regarded as a classic.
Yeah, of course.
And I think perhaps because of the creature they come across.
Yeah. Kirk mano a mano with one of the most fearsome alien species ever encountered.
We will get to that in due course. I'm not massively impressed with Kirk's fighting skills or his ingenuity or his agility.
Whoa. Speaking of alien races, did the Metrons remind you more of the Telosians or the Squire or one of the other overpowered species?
There are a lot of species which are vastly superior to Earth beings, and it's a trope that we have encountered before. Yeah,
it's a bit of a... I'm not sure, it's not really a get out, as it were, but they use it a lot, or a lot of the different writers use the same idea of this sort of alien species that's so powerful, we're not even going to bother explaining what they can do and what they can't do.
Yeah. We should remember, the name of this podcast is Fascinating.
It is.
Which has there's several different ways you can take that, different meanings, and I think one was perhaps I'm representing a person who has not seen it in its original run or at all. Would it fascinate me? And I think this is an example of an episode where I'm not being critical, but I'm not... If I was a kid back in the 60s and I came across some of the effects in this monster, which I think is well loved or well remembered by a lot of people, a lot of fans, I may well have been fascinated by it. But in 2020, at this age, I have to say it's a guy in a green suit, a frog suit, or a lizard suit.
You weren't compelled by his physical prowess?
No, I wasn't at all.
You weren't terrified of his almighty roar?
I thought it was laughable. I thought Kirk's attempts to fight and defeat this creature were also laughable. I thought
his attempts would have killed a human.
They wouldn't. We'll get to that. They certainly would not have. And he's at it in one of his recordings. That's a point I'd like to dwell upon later.
Well, there's nobody double checking his work, I suppose.
Nah.
Shall we get on with things?
Yeah, let's crack on.
Just for a change, we begin in the transporter room.
In hushed tones, Kirk advises McCoy that he will enjoy Commodore Travers as he sets a good table, and we hear that the party that are leaving are going to Cestus 3?
Yeah. We hear Travers himself come on comms asking them to hurry up and make sure that they bring their full tactical team.
Yes, he has an interesting problem for them, and Spock is rightly curious or concerned at this request.
Yeah, but Kirk sort of waves that off. He is of the view that it's a exposed colony at the edge of known space that's not that unlikely that they might have a tactical issue to discuss.
Yeah, but Spock tries to press the matter. However, McCoy is more interested in the opportunity to eat a non-space meal.
Yeah, and Spock calls him a sensualist, which he's happy to embrace.
I like that term, a sensualist.
I don't think that's an insult, is it?
No? I wouldn't take it as that if I
think it's almost the equivalent of when McCoy calls Spock logical. Yeah. He means it almost as an insult, but it's never taken that way.
And McCoy actually says, you can bet your pointed ears that he's a sensualist.
Yeah.
So Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and three randoms, who are, I think, Kelowitz, O'Hurley, and Lang.
Yeah, well, you know Kelowitz, he was in last week, one of the more recent episodes.
They're sent down, and immediately a red alert is called.
Yeah, Kirk happens to notice that the entire colony's been destroyed.
It's like a war zone.
Yeah.
Credits. And we return to Incestuous 3.
Incestuous 3, did you say?
Possibly. Who knows what's going on down there? What we do know is there is an ominous drum score, and with phasers pulled, the crew run over for cover inside what looks like... Now, I was confused. I thought this would be the arena. It looks like a stadium of some sort.
But no, this is just the colony.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit curious that Spock seemed almost puzzled by the messages that they'd received, given that it's only about 6 weeks since he was faking messages to get them to take Captain
cage.
Pike. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, in the menagerie, yeah. Anyhow, Kirk gets the team organised and Spock scans for life signs and picks up one living human.
Yeah, he detects a weak impulse.
We get a captain's log, which is kind of played over a visual of the team searching the colony.
Yeah, I noticed that. I think it's quite an interesting sort of presentation of this. So they're trying to mix things up a little bit.
We learn that the Enterprise has responded to a call from the outpost, and on landing, they've discovered it's been destroyed.
Yeah, sometimes the logs add a little bit more to what we've seen, but
This one added nothing.
nothing. It's just a summary, recap.
Yeah. In case you didn't watch the first few minutes.
Yeah.
And you want to wait 2 years for it to come back on the telly.
So indeed, there is a survivor. He's found lying down and looking like he was in a blast of fire or something.
Yeah, he's not able to communicate with them at this point.
No, McCoy, being a doctor, confirms that he's not in good shape and has suffered radiation burns and definitely has internal injuries. Now, he came to this conclusion without examining him at all, and after about 5 seconds.
He probably used tech before we flicked over.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Spock, using his tech, detects additional life signs, but they're not human. They're not even warm-blooded.
No. Also, what I'm finding is that I'm either very impressed with Kirk or quite unimpressed with him.
Depending who's writing the story.
Must be. This is an unimpressive episode in a number of ways, but one of the things he says here is that he instructs McCoy to make sure this chap is kept alive because he wants to find answers. So that's fair enough, but if I was the victim, I'd be thinking, I'd like to be kept alive just because I'm a person and you think I should be, not just because I'm a valuable resource.
Kirk's gone into sort of hostiles present mode. He's just on defence at the moment.
Anyway, as you mentioned, yes, so there are readings of other living creatures nearby, but they're not human.
No, and Kirk sends O'Hurley to investigate, but he's almost immediately vaporised.
I was going to say that, yeah. When you say sent to investigate, he literally steps about a foot away, and that's enough for him to see something before this
Evaporation
takes place.
Yeah. It's a shame for him. But anyway, a bombardment starts at this point, and Kirk calls for an emergency transport.
Yes, but there's a problem.
There is. Sulu advises that the Enterprise itself is also under attack and they've had to put up their shields, so they can't transport anybody right now.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I think Kirk orders that. He tells Sulu to prioritise.
Yeah, well, the next few interactions between them, it's Kirk prioritising the safety of the ship over the handful of people down on the surface.
Yeah. They are still under shell attack on the ground and are vastly overpowered in terms of weaponry. So they carry the injured man into a sheltered area, as Kelowitz and Lang are told to spread out and fire as instructed by Spock.
Spock at this point has to reassure Kirk that Sulu knows what he's doing and he'll handle things on board the Enterprise okay. But Kirk's doing one of these things where, it's my ship, I should be there, I should be in charge, it could get destroyed and I'm not even there.
Mm-hmm. Now, under constant bombardment, Kirk asks Spock if he remembers or knows where the arsenal is. So is this something that information Spock should have?
Well, I presume he's sussed out the layout of the camp.
What, before they left, or just in general?
Maybe just known for remembering this sort of thing.
Yeah. In any case, Kirk runs over to this. Well, he tries to get there.
Yeah, some sort of kamikaze zigzag manoeuvre.
Yeah, and I think, but after a few steps, he's knocked on his backside.
Yeah, he's literally trying to zigzag between falling bombs, which I don't think is the most... it's not like you're running away from a crocodile.
No, so he doesn't get to where he's going straight away. He has to take cover, and again he communicates with Sulu up in the bridge, and he learns that they still have not identified the aggressor, and he orders the Enterprise to continue attacking.
Yes, I think Sulu says the phasers haven't made any impact, so Kirk authorises use of the photon torpedoes.
Communication is then lost, and he makes another run for it before performing a very impressive head-first leap.
Yep, spectacular.
Yeah, I wonder if it was him or his stuntman.
Well, all you have to do is pause it because it'll be obvious from the face.
It was his stuntman.
Okay.
He then picks up his chat again with his navigator and authorises him to do anything necessary to protect the Enterprise. At this point, Sulu must be like, anything okay you've given me, I'm in complete charge, I'm going to get my top off and get the sword out.
And he says including leaving orbit, and Sulu's basically like, okay, cheerio, he's off.
Yeah.
He warps out of orbit.
He does.
Meanwhile, back over at the sheltered area, McCoy and Spock are chatting.
Yes. McCoy tells Spock in front of the victim that he will be dead in 30 minutes unless they get help. And Spock detects that the enemy are moving and he must get to Kirk. So, firstly, Kirk has been totally insensitive with regards to his tone and his actions in front of this poor guy. And now McCoy's not even bothering to hide the fact that he's got 30 minutes of life.
I suspect the guy maybe isn't processing the information.
Well, maybe, but you can be a little bit more sensitive, surely.
I suppose so. Spock makes a similar sort of kamikaze manoeuvre and joins Kirk in a crater.
Yes, before he realises that the enemy have locked onto his tricorder, causing him to throw it away just before it explodes, which was nice timing. Very lucky
Fortunate.
there.
He calls them ingenious at this stage, and Kirk sets up a grenade launcher. I think he wants to see how ingenious they are when they're getting blown to pieces.
Yeah, and he updates Spock on the Enterprise as he shouts for Lang, but it is Kelowitz who appears with news of Lang.
He's dead.
Apparently.
He's probably vaporised. They only paid him for one scene.
Anyway, I think that Kelowitz advises Kirk on the enemy's position or where he thinks strategically they should be placed.
Yeah, and he also raises the fact that if they launch these grenades at them, they'll still be in the sort of blast zone themselves.
Yeah, it's a bit too close, isn't it, for the power?
Yeah, Kirk's only response to that is, it'll be worse for them. Which isn't the greatest. That's not really what you want to hear, is it, if you're Kelowitz?
No, not at all. So they take cover as Kirk fires this grenade in the direction advised, which detonates like a nuclear bomb.
Oh, it's massive, and it's enough to end the enemy's participation in this particular conflict.
Sulu then communicates down, telling him the attacker has retreated, and Kirk tells him to lock onto it and not to lose them before ordering a search party of 30 medical personnel to be beamed down to look for and aid any survivors, and at the same time they've been beamed up.
So is the idea they're leaving these 30 folk and then they're going to head off and do something while they're down in the... And where do they get 30 medical folk? They've got 2 doctors as far as I'm aware, a doctor and a nurse.
That's exactly the notes I've taken here. So it's a war zone. They've still no idea if it's a permanent ceasefire they've created.
Yeah.
Or how many people are, or aliens, what the aliens are, who the aliens are, and what their intentions are. So they're going to send down 30 people and just leave them there. That's not great risk assessment, I wouldn't have said.
No, it's rash.
And the point you mentioned, 30, they won't have 30 surely medical staff.
It seems unlikely.
I'm thinking that's anyone who's ever done one first aid course is now classed as medical.
Yeah, if you can work the defibrillator, you're going down.
Yeah.
We get a captain's log.
Yeah, they are now chasing after the ship, which is headed for an unexplored part of the galaxy.
May not be unexplored to them.
Unrecorded.
No, but to the other ship. It's probably been there before.
Yeah, I don't think they're just randomly hiding somewhere.
No. Anyhow, we head into sickbay.
We do. Where Spock and McCoy are with Kirk as he asks the survivor for information on what happened.
Scanners reported a ship approaching. We get them now and then. They're all welcome to use our facilities. You know that.
Yes, sir.
They came in space normal speed, using our regular approach run, but they knocked out our phaser batteries with their first salvo. From then on, we were helpless. We weren't expecting anything. Why should we? We didn't have anything anyone would want.
Easy, easy.
They poured it on like phasers, only worse, whatever they were using. I tried to signal them. We called up. Tried to surrender. We had women and children. I told them that. I begged them. They wouldn't listen. They didn't let up for a moment.
Lieutenant, the Enterprise received 2 messages, ostensibly from Cestus 3. One for the Enterprise to go there, and the other for myself and my tactical crew to beam down to the surface.
They hit us a full day before you got there, Captain. No messages came from us, Captain. Why did they do it? Why? Why did they do it?
What I don't understand is the timeline here. Has this colony been established for some amount of time, or have they only just arrived? That's why they think they're invaders or intruders.
Who thinks they're invaders or intruders?
Okay, so how long has this chap...
Don't know. It's not established. We don't hear.
That's what I'm saying. If they'd been there for months,
Yeah.
then the aliens,
Yeah.
why are they only attacking now? Now, if they'd only arrived like 2 or 3 days ago, then you understand why they could be considered aggressors.
Yeah. But they didn't consider them aggressors. They thought they were there peacefully, and then they just attacked.
That's what I'm saying. So, but for how long had they... I mean, it makes a big difference. If they've already been there for a year, and this is an established colony, then an attack now can't be... you can't really defend that.
Well, I think this will come back up later on. I think we should maybe shelve this one until towards the end of the episode, because there's more information to come out.
We're in Kirk's quarters. We've not been there for a while. No Rand. Rand's always hanging about there with...
You expect her just to walk in.
Yeah. Kirk states the obvious to Spock. It was a trap.
A clever trap.
Yeah. And I quite like this cut, actually, because in the clip we heard there, your man's asking like why, what happened, and it's a hard cut.
Kirk's answering the question.
Yeah.
It's bad thought process here from Kirk. He doesn't take the advantage that he has of Spock's opinion, even when he's trying to offer it. I think Spock does the dutiful thing in just accepting his captain's view, but he clearly doesn't agree.
Oh, without a doubt, he's not happy, and I'm not sure he's doing the right thing in terms of the chain of command.
Yeah.
But he's senior enough, and he has proven himself enough, I think, that perhaps he should be at least putting his foot down, or at least trying a little bit harder to make it clear.
The only thing that I could think as a possibility was he isn't convinced that Kirk's wrong enough to make a stand on it, that he thinks it's enough of a possibility that the decision having been made and recognising that the decision's been made, he's not angry enough or concerned enough about that decision to go against it.
Possibly, yeah. In any case, Spock concedes that if it is the case that it was an aggressive act, they must stop the ship getting to its base.
Yeah, we didn't actually say what Kirk's thought was. He thinks it's an invasion. It's a precursor to invasion of their territory.
Sure. So Kirk communicates with Sulu, telling him to overtake the alien ship that they're following and prepare to fire on them. This is going to initiate a battle, a decision that Spock is, again, we can see is clearly not supportive of.
You think? I thought Spock had just said, yeah, we need to stop them getting away.
Yeah, if we believe what,
Right, okay, yeah.
But I don't think he does believe that.
Yeah, we saw in the Galileo 7 that he's not fond of killing anybody if he can avoid it, which is a complete 180 from his original position.
Yeah,
where just grab a gun, shoot everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the cool use of logic now?
Yeah, it's obviously been a conscious decision, I think, by the writers to try and, I suppose, soften Spock's aggressive tendencies. Maybe they thought that they didn't quite like where that was going and they had to make him... If they decided, I suppose, that, as we're seeing here, Kirk is going to be more cavalier.
Yeah.
Perhaps he needed that.
Yeah, a balance. Yeah. Red alert's called and we get another captain's log.
Again, just another recap. I don't think
hot
anything...
pursuit. That's about it.
Yeah. Back in the bridge, Kirk wants to know from Spock what they know about the area they are in.
We heard this at the top of the show. I think we got the brief intro clip.
Yeah, he's virtually nothing except for rumours about strange signals.
Space rumours.
That's it, and legends. Sulu then provides an update. What was that?
Yeah, the alien ship has matched their Warp 6.
Yeah, that's a bit concerning.
Yeah.
So this forces Kirk to order a Warp 7 increase.
Yes. Spock's not happy with that, and Scotty says they're either going to catch them or blow up, which isn't a great dichotomy, really.
No, because, yeah, I mean, he has the option. It's not a case of, like, they're running away. So if they just back off, then that's fine.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of Harry Mudd and his ship at the start of Mudd's Women, when he had to push it hard enough and it blew up just after they got rescued.
Mm-hmm. And the rest of the crew as well. It's not just Sulu and Spock. I think everyone at this point turns round when he orders the Warp 7 and thinks, this isn't a great idea. And when the rest of your crew are obviously uncomfortable, you should perhaps be taking on board, at least having a bit more of a chat.
Yeah, it's a bit like Conscience of the King, when people are not entirely sure where his decisions are coming from.
Yeah. Spock, however, has a quiet word in his captain's ear, suggesting that pursuing them may be enough to put them off.
Did he not watch Balance of Terror or the Galileo 7? He tried and failed with that one.
He thinks that destruction might be overkill, but Kirk makes it clear he wants punishment and revenge. And this is, again, it's not, so you could let them go. He's after revenge and punishment.
He actually uses the phrase, "we are the police."
He does.
And there's a crime being committed. It's very sort of Cold War USA, sort of world policeman stuff.
Very authoritarian.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow.
Sulu's got more news.
The aliens have matched Warp 7.
And to everyone's horror, Kirk then orders Warp Factor 8 and for phasers to be prepared to fire. I must have asked this before. How far up does Warp go? How many factors is there?
Well, it's not really established at this stage. I'm not entirely sure that they're using the same figures, but there's a big thing when you get to Star Trek Voyager, which is set up 80 to 90 years after this. No one's done Warp 10 at that point, and that 9.9 is the fastest it's been done, and someone breaks the Warp 10 barrier and they turn into a lizard. So
that's what I'm saying. The scale would make sense here. 8's pretty high.
Yeah.
If we're looking at a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
With 10 being the theoretical maximum possible for a few seconds.
I suspect they might walk back this Warp Factor 8 thing at some point in a future episode, because I don't think this ship can do the same Warp 8 as they talk about in the later shows.
Okay. A little time passes. We're back in the bridge.
They haven't blown up.
Nope. They are closing in and approaching an uncharted solar system, but the alien is not going there apparently.
No, I should note that Sulu looks very happy at this stage, like he's enjoying this chase.
Yeah, he loves it.
He's got a big grin on his face. And his colleague at the adjoining station is a guy called DePaul, who reports that a nearby uncharted solar system is being avoided by these aliens.
Yeah. Ahura, she also has some input.
Yes, the uncharted solar system has some kind of scan coming from it, and it is scanning the Enterprise.
Yeah. However, nothing malicious seems to be in order at this point. They're not under any threat.
No, and Sulu suddenly has some very good news.
Yeah, the alien ship has slowed and stopped in space.
Kirk, you can see the bloodlust in his eyes.
Well, he thinks it's turning ready just to fight. It's given up running and it's going to go head to head, as it were.
That's it. But it's not the case. There's no fight. Or at least there's not the fight that he anticipates.
So and again, this is poor logic. He smells. He thinks he's got them. It's not a fight, but they're a sitting duck, perhaps.
He's going to go and crush them.
Yeah.
Make his point. For some reason he's particularly angry. I assume that the Commodore was a friend that died in the colony. The one that he was talking about in the first scene. Mm-hmm. We don't get that backstory, but there's no other reason why Kirk would be so out of control like he is in this
I think
moment.
At least twice we've had this discussion or made this point that he sometimes acts irrationally.
Yeah, but usually we have to imagine some kind of backstory that makes it make sense.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, but it doesn't. It's a one-liner. He was my friend. I've known him for...
Yeah, they could have thrown it in that opening scene, we were at the academy together, or, I've known him for 30 years, or that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And it just made the backstory a little bit richer.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the Enterprise is not able to initiate this deadly assault because it too begins to slow.
And ends up stationary as well. So Scotty confirms that they are locked up and have no propulsion, but fortunately, life systems are normal, so they're not in immediate danger here.
Yeah, I think it's just the engines and the weapons that are offline.
Sure. Communications from the phaser bank control room confirm that they too are powerless, as you mentioned.
Yeah. It seems to be some kind of unidentifiable power, and it's just holding them there.
Yeah, I think Spock says there's no damage. He's done a brief check, or a quick check, and there's no damage to the ship itself.
Yeah, they shouldn't be stopped. They just are.
I think Scotty, what he says, can he move?
Know how he feels.
And at this point, lights dim as a colourful communication comes through on their screen.
We are the Metrons. You are one of 2 crafts which have come into our space on a mission of violence. This is not permissible. Yet we have analyzed you and have learned that your violent tendencies are inherent. So be it. We will control them. We will resolve your conflict in the way most suited to your limited mentalities. Captain James Kirk.
This is Kirk.
We have prepared a planet with a suitable atmosphere. You will be taken there, as will the captain of the Gorn ship which you have been pursuing. There you will settle your dispute.
I don't understand.
You will be provided with a recording translating device, in hopes that a chronicle of this contest will serve to dissuade others of your kind from entering our system. But you will not be permitted to communicate with your ship. You will each be totally alone.
What makes you think you can interfere?
It is you who are interfering. We are simply putting a stop to it. The place we have prepared for you contains sufficient elements for either of you to construct weapons lethal enough to destroy the other, which seems to be your intention. The winner of the contest will be permitted to go his way unharmed. The loser, along with his ship, shall be destroyed in the interests of peace. The contest will be one of ingenuity against ingenuity, brute strength against brute strength. The results will be final. There will be no discussion. It is done.
At this, Kirk vanishes and Uhura screams, so she's obviously a bit more concerned this time than she was when the Squire took him.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, was it last week? But the portrayal of the different crew members based on their gender is different here. So she's the only one who lets out a scream.
Yes. Yeah, why is the woman so upset?
She's more emotional.
Yes, irrational. It's interesting to note this is the midway point of the episode, so I think a lot of people thinking about this episode only or primarily focus on the part that's still to come.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's only 50% of the episode.
Sure. We're down on this planet or asteroid where Kirk faces a lizard-like, it's called a Gorn, is that that's a race?
It's a Gorn, the race of Gorn.
Okay.
I think this one's called Philip.
Yeah. He reminded me of Hannibal's costume in the A-Team credits.
Okay, some folk will get that reference.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay.
He seemed to me like an all-powerful alien reptile humanoid.
He looked like a guy in a frog suit.
You don't really see many more Gorn in Star Trek. I think there's a Gorn corpse in Discovery at one stage, but they don't really feature much after this.
Yeah. Now, again, let me make it clear, I'm sure in the 60s this was really impressive, sophisticated stuff. But yeah, I'm thinking this is just a look at the state of this.
Do you know what would have been more impressive? If they took the guy who did the voice and put him in a suit.
Yeah.
We already saw in a previous episode that he's an imposing fellow. We'll come to that.
Big lunch?
Yeah.
Okay. He's also wearing a bathing suit.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
It's not really fighting.
Well, you tell him that. He'll very slowly walk round you.
That's it. There wasn't any, I don't know, there was no, it didn't intimidate me in any way. I'm thinking, this isn't, like, fair enough if he was really fast, but after a few moments with him, I'd be thinking, yeah, I can keep out your way.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if he's got reptilian qualities, I would have thought speed would have been one of them. Anyhow, we get a weird sort of voiceover from Kirk's, like, of his thoughts, I think.
Yeah, it's not a log.
Yeah, so Kirk thinks, and we hear it, and he says, like most humans, he's adverse to reptiles. I think that's not true.
No, plenty of people. Well, most maybe. I think maybe a lot of people don't like them. There's certainly people who love them.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, maybe, if you're saying most, the majority of people, I think, yeah, more than 50% probably don't like them.
Really? Are you including snakes?
Yeah.
Snakes aren't really reptiles, though, are they? They're snakes.
Is a snake not a reptile?
No, I don't think so.
Is it not?
I would have thought not.
Okay, well, I was including snakes.
If you don't include snakes, things like geckos and...
But most people don't think about them that much. Don't
Komodo dragons,
Yeah.
iguanas, chameleons.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Are folk icked out by them?
maybe not just to look, but I don't know. I think a lot of people wouldn't like to touch one or have it on their arm.
Really?
Don't know.
I mean, chameleons would worry you wouldn't know when they're sneaking up on you.
That's it.
There could be one behind you right now.
Could be one on my arm right now.
You wouldn't know it.
No.
It would just be that sort of peely wally colour.
Check. Hey, I've got a bit of colour about me just now for decent weather. I've got a reasonable little tan in the go here.
There you go. Everything's relative.
It certainly is, yeah.
Anyhow, Kirk also reasons that, or he notes that he must force himself to remember that this is an intelligent, advanced individual. So he's immediately bigoted against this creature. He's admitting that he has a natural intent or a natural feeling of superiority over this creature for no reason.
Well, I think it's based on how he looks.
Yeah, racism.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we get into the fight. And it's dramatic and exciting.
Yeah, they both snap off some branches in preparation for their terrible slow motion.
Well, my favourite bit is Kirk breaks off a branch.
It's
and he
rubbish.
turns around and he sees the Gorn's branch and he just chucks his away because he knows it's going to be no use.
Kirk has to run from this creature before he brings a pebble to a boulder fight.
Well, first of all, the Gorn gets hold of him and he has to chop his face to get away out of the sort of bear hug. He's getting the life squeezed out of him.
Again, this is very 60s. It's a sort of move that a 60s James Bond would do. You know, there's a little sort of karate chop to the back or the neck. It's something that doesn't
Two
work.
inches away.
It doesn't work in real life, these little things where you can knock people out or you bash them about the...
Hit him right on the pressure point.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's a terrible effort he's made here, and the Gorn is hopeless as well. If he's such a powerful... That little tap to the...
He's taken by surprise.
To the ear shouldn't have... I quite liked his eyes.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah.
Kirk, as you say, grabs the heaviest rock he can lift and launches it at the Gorn, striking him square in the chest.
I mean, it's not that big a rock. It's maybe football sized.
Did you think the fight was over at that stage?
I thought it shouldn't be. I mean, like, it literally would not have... He could have thrown it at me, and it might have hurt, but I could have survived that. And his little... we'll talk about that, because he mentions it later on where he tries to big himself up and overplay what he done. So it's a little tap to the side of the head, and then a small... It's like a brick, really, isn't it? A brick at your chest.
Yeah.
It's not going to...
Launched from quite a distance. So it's probably decelerated quite a bit.
Yeah, and you can see it coming, you sort of prepare for it. And the guy's a big guy.
And he's got his suit on.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be expecting... I would be really surprised if that little thing had... finished the thing off, but anyway, we're up in the bridge.
Well, before that though, the Gorn retaliates by picking up a massive rock of his own, causing Kirk to run away.
Well, that's what I said. Yes, the pebble to a boulder fight, because he decides that's not a knife.
This is a rock.
Up on the bridge.
Yes, there's a quick discussion between Spock, Scotty, and Uhura, but nothing's happening, and they can't hear anything on the comms either.
Well, yeah, that's about it. Back down on the asteroid, both Kirk and the Gorn have been given
I should say that's the first kind of filler we've really had in the series, isn't it?
I think it's to split, and I appreciate it again when you're taking notes.
Yeah, you get a bit of a break.
You get a bit of a break, and you think it's not on the one scene, and you can see that they're doing that in the script, and you see it in movies as well. I've noted it, or I've noticed it through all the podcasts we've done. And it's just a little break for the user. Take them away somewhere else and bring them back, or else it'd be a very, very long.
Yeah. Don't have to keep their attention for that long.
So they've both been given these communication devices, which Kirk now uses to record his predicament in the hope it will get to Starfleet Command.
Yes, unfortunately, unbeknown to Kirk, the Gorn can hear everything he's saying and understand it.
Yeah, but this is the point of what I was referring to earlier. Kirk's full of shit.
That's the bleep for this week.
That's the one this week. He claims that this very limited attack of his was enough to kill a man, and therefore this Gorn must be immensely powerful. No. He bashed his ears and threw a stone at his chest.
Well, maybe he did more after it cut away to the bridge.
Nah.
Then he got a machine gun out and shot him 8 times.
Kirk is it's like, I'm beat here, and he can't. It's like, if he were attacked in the street,
well, I suppose no one's going to test him in this, are they?
Oh, that's what I'm
When
saying.
they pick up the recording, he must have really pummeled the guy.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, if you get mugged, say, okay, of a couple of teenagers, right, or one teenager, you say, oh yeah, they were at least in their 20s, 6'5", very well built. Yeah, that's how I get beat up. I mean, I couldn't.
And Kirk's like, oh, I had him on the run.
Yeah,
it was one lucky punch.
Yeah, then I stumbled. And he got lucky. That was it.
He cheated.
Yeah, immensely powerful, this space creature. Yeah, if it was any other man on this planet, I would have definitely won the fight
for sure.
At it.
Kirk thinks he has the agility advantage, which is debatable, although the Gorn is quite ponderous at times.
His confidence is so misplaced here, and it's very quickly proven to be misplaced.
Yeah, he hopes he has an advantage in cleverness. Does he forget, first of all, they completely tricked him into going down to a planet where he could get ambushed by faking messages from his friend that he didn't pick up on.
Yeah, he's been absolutely played here.
And they blew up Spock's tricorder while he was holding it, using science that Kirk and Spock had no idea about. So, oh yeah, but I'm cleverer than him because he's green.
He looks like
he doesn't look like me.
Yeah.
Kirk also notes that he has no prospect of success unless he can fashion some kind of weapon.
Up on the bridge, Spock asks for Channel 1 to be left open as he is approached by McCoy, who wants to know what his plan is for the Enterprise and their captain.
What are you going to do, Mr. Spock? I'm going to wait, Doctor. There's little else I can do.
What about the captain?
If I could help him, I would. I cannot.
Now, you're the one that's always talking about logic. What about some logic now? Where's the captain, Mr. Spock?
He's out there, Doctor. Out there somewhere in 1,000 cubic parsecs of space. And there's absolutely nothing we can do to help him.
I'm not sure if McCoy really understands what logic is.
Yeah, he's mixing it up with clairvoyance.
Or superintelligence.
Yeah, it's just a process.
Yeah.
Still.
Back down on the asteroid.
Kirk is running up a hill.
Yep, struggling to find a weapon, but the Gorn is fashioning something from some vines and rocks.
It's probably something stupid. He's not very bright. Look at him.
Yeah, idiot. You can tell he's big and meaty, can't have any brains.
Exactly.
Kirk will definitely be able to outmaneuver him physically and mentally.
Kirk finds a rock with some ore, some mineral. I'm not sure. He decides to tell us anyway what it is.
No, it's diamonds.
It's diamonds.
Yeah.
For some reason, he just says that out loud.
And for some reason, he thinks it's the hardest substance in the universe. It's not.
No, it's just some kind of pressurised carbon, isn't it?
Yeah, but laments that they are useless as weapons. Well, again, it's not an impressive episode for Kirk.
No, he's not really thinking clearly, is he?
He's been fooled into down to a planet. Then he I think actually that's what it is. He's so embarrassed and angry about.
He's trying to make up for it, isn't he?
I want to get them. Yeah, so I'm going to chase. So he chases after people who doesn't. He doesn't even know who he's chasing after. He's no idea how many people are on that and what their intentions are.
How powerful they are. Yeah,
he puts his entire ship at risk.
Red mist. That's what it is.
And now he's down here and he's still thinking, yeah, I've got the upper hand. I'm definitely smarter than this lot.
Yeah. From the ridge that he's reached, he watches the Gorn doing whatever he's doing. I think he's sharpening a knife at this point.
Yes, and then, now did this remind you of anything?
Yeah, Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner.
I've got Coyote-esque bold.
I've written Wile E. Coyote in my notes. Yeah.
It's precariously balanced over this. I mean, this is what you're talking about.
It's like, what you haven't seen out of shot is next to the Gorn, Kirk's put up a sign saying build weapon here. And a wee box saying Acme pointy things.
And the Gorn's running by. Meep, meep. Oh, yeah. And we find out it's not even directly over his head, so he has to push this boulder slowly down. I mean, anyone would be able to hear it bashing and just step aside.
Yes. But the Gorn's not paying attention. He's building his Acme weapon, and the boulder comes tumbling down, crushing him.
Yeah, it's causing Kirk to smile with satisfaction that his superior intellect has won out.
Yes, and he makes his way down the mountain to claim his triumph.
Yeah. But that's the thing, it's how satisfied can you be? He's not like fashioned a MacGyver-esque solution. He's dropped a boulder on someone. You don't have to be the superior being to come up with that.
No.
And it wasn't as if he It'd be more acceptable if he had enticed this creature to a certain spot and then managed to get a rock or a boulder into position and then dropped it. But it was literally a boulder he only pushed it.
Yeah, the guy happened to be standing underneath it.
Yeah. There's nothing to be satisfied or happy about in your performance here.
No. But, on the other hand, when he gets to the ground level and sees the Gorn is fine, he walks into the Gorn's trap.
Yeah, okay, before we get to that, so he goes down there and the Gorn is not dead, he's just a bit annoyed. And it's like, it's one of these sort of tropes you see sometimes. It used to happen in the A-Team. I'll reference that again, where there'd be bad guys fighting and one of them would have a free shot at BA and he'd punch him and then that look in his face, like, I've just made him angry, I've not actually harmed him.
Yeah.
And then this foolish Kirk, this idiot, what does he do? So he runs away.
He stumbles right into a trap. He's not so clever now, is he?
No, he's not. Fortunately, the Gorn is fairly hopeless as well.
I mean, it looks like the Gorn's pulled a muscle or something because he can't quite manoeuvre himself into position to stab Kirk with his knife.
But it's not that. He decides that the best way to stab him is to remove the boulder that is pinning him down.
That doesn't make sense either.
No.
Just stab the bit that you can see.
Exactly. Just repeatedly stab it. Yeah. That's a James Bond thing. Oh, I'll let you out here to...
I'll tell you my evil plan.
Yeah.
Yes, so as soon as the boulder is moved, Kirk is able to limp away.
We're back to square one, just them running about over the place.
Yeah. Up on the bridge, Spock's a bit bored. He wants to have a chat with the Metrons.
But they're blanking him.
Yeah, we've seen him try to chat to folk that aren't listening before, haven't we?
He sort of resorts. It's a bit pathetic, isn't it? He's almost begging.
So talk to me. So you want to be my friend?
But again, I think that's just another scene to split the scenes up here.
Break things up a wee bit, yeah.
Because we're back down immediately on the asteroids where Kirk has ran to an area that's covered in...
Mustard.
Yeah, it's bright yellow, chalk, dusty stuff. And he makes another recording where he admits that he is almost done for if he can't find the weapon. So he went down there full of bravado, full of vim and vinegar, and within a half an hour...
Cutting back to the Gorn who's chuckling away going...
Yeah.
You imagine.
I mean, he's been finished off by this creature with some boulders and some string.
Yeah, that's it, he's done. Else he's wounded himself walking up and down a hill, he's knackered.
Yeah. In any case, he smells this dust that he's found and notes that it is sulphur.
He does, and he thinks there's something he should be remembering about sulphur.
Yeah, something that McCoy must have told him before. Can't quite put his finger on it.
It stinks.
It does, it's
That's
horrible.
What it is.
Yeah. And he has to limp on again, I think, because he might have... Has he heard the Gorn coming after him or something?
Yeah, I think he just wants to keep on the move.
McCoy, up in the bridge, is now just moaning about how they are trapped when the Metrons finally decide to talk.
Yeah, they're like, sorry we missed your call.
But it's not positive, is it?
No, they're going to make them watch the end of Kirk's fight so they can see he's about to die.
Yeah, they actually say, we believe that your people are quite emotional and you might want to, if it's your thing, organise a memorial because he's not got long left.
Yeah. They're quite shocked when they see this magnificent Gorn on the screen. This alien god who's going to crush their captain.
Yeah. I think McCoy begs for them to stop. But they make the point that Kirk's violent intentions has shown or proved that they are not civilised. And I think it's hard to argue with that from their point of view.
Yeah.
Kirk again has got them all into, or got himself into a lot of trouble here.
Yeah. So watching this footage, we see Spock notice something.
Yeah. Can I just say as well, I think it's a misreading from the Metrons about what humans like. It's like, oh, we understand that you're very fond of your captain. Here's a video of him dying. Here's some live streamed footage of his death.
Well, some folk would like it. Anyhow, like I say, Spock's noticed something.
Well, yeah, Spock's noticed that Kirk has noticed something.
Okay.
He has moved on to other rocks, which are this time covered in
Salt.
Cocaine.
Okay.
Which Spock believes to be potassium nitrate. How would he know?
Exactly. It's a white powder millions of miles away.
Could be anything. Could be baking powder.
Yeah. So it could be literally anything.
He's not a chemist in any way, is he, Spock? Right?
Well, he's a scientist. Yeah, it's probably part of his training.
Okay.
He did a module.
Right. With a Bunsen burner.
That's it, and his little test tubes.
Yep. We see Kirk taste this white powder.
As you do.
Yeah.
That's what I do whenever I see a white powder. Oh. Salt again.
As Spock claims that this discovery is perhaps everything or nothing.
Yeah, it could be. Yes, that's very vague from Spock, isn't it?
Yeah, but we see that Kirk has got a smile on his face. He's obviously worked something out.
Well, you say that, but he probably hasn't. He probably just thinks he has.
Yeah, because
He's been late for the last half an hour.
Egomaniac. He's so conceited.
Oh, it's terrible.
I'm glad actually he gets a bit of a beating in this. He deserves it.
Well, he doesn't get much of a beating, does he?
Well, he's almost dead at one point.
Well,
He actually recorded that there wasn't long left for him.
yeah, I think he was overreacting. He's being
Yeah.
melodramatic.
Yeah, 'cause what actually
he had a stitch because he'd
Yeah.
run up the hill. That's
Yeah, he
him.
was trapped under a rock for a while, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We saw that happen to Spock. Remember in the Galileo 7? He just
Yeah.
ran back to the shuttle. It was
Oh,
fine.
there's no, you can't save me. It's like, no, we can just move this rock.
They seem to have
okay.
this sort of fear of rocks.
Anyway, Kirk has to run off again, and as he is doing so, he is contacted by the Gorn, who has an offer for him that he can refuse, and one that's heard by Spock and McCoy.
Captain,
Who is this, the Metro?
this is your opponent, Earthling. I have heard every word you have said.
All right, what do you want?
I weary of the chase. Wait for me. I shall be merciful and quick.
Like you were at Cestus 3?
You were intruding. You established an outpost in our space.
You butchered helpless human
We
beings.
destroyed invaders, as I shall destroy you.
Can that be true? Was Cestus 3 an intrusion on their space? It may well be possible, Doctor. We know very little about that section of the galaxy. Then we could be on the wrong. Perhaps. That is something best decided by diplomats. The Gorn simply might have been trying to protect themselves. Yes.
We brought this up earlier on, and I still don't understand the time frame here. So, Gorn are claiming that the colony was an intrusion into their
Yes.
area, but that must have happened immediately. Then they must have only arrived there, because why are they destroying them if it happened? If they colonised that place months ago, why now are
Well,
they?
maybe they were waiting to see if they would leave. It might have been a research party or an archaeological team.
But they weren't. The colony wasn't being aggressive, was it?
No, it's just sitting there.
Yeah. So this doesn't make sense.
Well, this is the other thing. Spock and McCoy and later Kirk as well will say that the Gorn could have been justified, but I think no. What would have been justified would be them saying, "You're on our planet, get off."
Yeah.
And if they don't then get off, then fair enough. If you're an angry species, you might consider attacking.
Well,
But not just, I'm going to show up and blow you all up.
No, you give them the warning. You say, if you're not off in 30 days, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And then they can go back to Starfleet Command or whatever and say, guys, here's a situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just go around blowing folk up and say, "Oh, that was my space."
No. But unless that's what I'm saying, unless it just arrived and it was like an invading
Or
army.
unless they were signs that they ignored that said, "Keep off the planet."
Yeah. And fear of, or
Yeah. Trespassers will be shot.
beware of the Gorn.
Exactly. That's probably what happened, to be fair.
Okay.
Right.
Up in the bridge.
Yes, Spock suddenly gets a glint in his eye.
He's fascinated and impressed by Kirk's deductions.
He says, "Yes! Yes!"
What does he see him do?
He is putting a plan in place. He's gathering minerals, diamonds into this sort of fat bamboo stalk.
And for the third time, I'll mention the A-Team. It was like that, when you make weapons from things that are just lying around. That
Sort of
happened.
jury-rigged thing.
Yeah.
Spock, I think, references gunpowder.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Kirk build this weapon.
Yeah, I think Spock, he's giving a sort of commentary. He says that he needs
Coal. I
coal
think, yeah.
and sulphur and the potassium. If you can mix this together, it will create gunpowder. And Kirk then moves on to add some diamonds for bullets, as the Gorn again suggests he just give himself up.
Well, the Gorn's only got one strategy now. I think he's been exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kirk's on the ascendancy here.
So we see Kirk add the sulphur and move on again to a place where there's an abundance of coal. Fortunate that, isn't it?
Well, the Metrons did promise them everything they need to destroy their opponents.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yes, he puts his... I think he tears off a bit of his trousers as well to make a fuse.
Mm-hmm.
And then tries to create a spark.
He mixes all the ingredients together and he's trying to create this spark. As McCoy wonders if he can do it, and Spock confirms yes, if he's enough time. So it's possible, but...
Yeah, the Gorn's approaching.
Mm-hmm.
We come to the critical moment. Kirk senses the Gorn appearing over his shoulder and turns with the cannon.
Just in time to fire a shot that, at last, fells the creature.
It destroys the cannon as well.
Uh-huh.
But yes, it's worked. Kirk quickly grabs the Gorn's fallen dagger.
And he's about to ram this stake through him and finish the job.
But he stops.
Why?
Mercy? I think, like Spock and McCoy, he starts to think, well, are we the baddies here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not, but he thinks that. At this, he throws this dagger down, I think, and shouts to the sky he will not kill the Gorn.
Well, he shouts to the Metrons.
Well, yes, but they're in the sky.
Yeah, they'll have to be entertained in other ways. And when he looks back, he sees the Gorn vanish. And this was just like the Squire of Gothos.
Was it?
Yeah, well, towards the end of it, he vanished. He was. There was someone.
His parents got rid of him.
Yeah. And then we see the appearance of a Metron, a very distinctive looking character.
Yeah, Kirk says that the Metron looks like a young boy.
Not where I grew up.
Well,
He doesn't.
there's no young boys that look like that in your neck of the woods.
Yeah. No.
Why are you checking out the young boys?
Well,
To see if they look like this?
to see if they look like- yeah.
Fair enough. The Metron claims to be 1,500 years old.
And is pleasantly surprised by Kirk's compassion and will therefore not destroy him.
Interesting.
Which is nice.
He offers to destroy the Gorn, but Kirk says, nah, that's fine. We'll try and talk to them.
It's a little bit like the end of Rocky 4.
If he can change.
Yeah.
No, I can change.
We'll just have a little chat and everything.
All of you can change.
So the patronising Metron then leaves with the remark that he is still half savage, but there is some hope.
In thousands of years.
Yeah.
We get the sort of segue to our finale up on the bridge.
Yeah, he reappears and tells them to prepare to get out of there ASAP.
But Sulu notes they've already been transported 500 parsecs. Now, I mentioned this to you before we started recording. Why are they suddenly talking in parsecs? They haven't done it in any other episode. They've always used light years.
I don't even know what a parsnip is.
A parsec is 3.3 light years. So
Like a carrot.
they've been shifted 500 parsecs, which is 1,630 light years.
Right, okay.
So that's a long way.
Sure.
It's going to take them a long time to get back to their medical team.
Indeed. That's a good point there. What happened to them?
About 2 years it's going to take them, because that's where Kirk says to go.
Well, that's the thing as well then. So are they going to be allowed to go back and get them? Because they've just had a...
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
The Gorn are probably scared of them now that Kirk's shown himself the superior being.
He's made a mess of this, Kirk. And
The whole
absolute
thing's a bit of a
shambles.
farce, yes. McCoy's fed up with it all anyway, and he
And
leaves.
sorry again. I mean, we lost Lang and the other Hurley, maybe.
Yeah, Hurley, yeah.
That's 2 deaths.
2 more, yeah. But to be fair, they were tricked into all those things.
Yeah.
As I say, McCoy is fed up and leaves. And Spock chats to Kirk.
What did they chat about?
Well, he says that they lost visual after the cannon was fired. He wants to know what happened. How did it end? And Kirk's a bit vague, sort of
a bit patronising.
enigmatic. Yeah. He says that apparently they're a promising species, meaning himself, as predators go. Spock says no. And Kirk says, well, I no longer doubt it. He's now full of confidence again. He's the superior being. He's proved himself superior, and he's proved himself morally superior as well.
But he does admit it might take about 1,000 years or so to prove it, as he orders a warp 1
Back to
exit.
Cestus 3.
Yeah.
It's going to take them 1,600 years at that speed. No, that can't be right. The warp's faster than the speed of light, so less than that, but
Okay.
a long time.
Yeah, but you don't. Maybe it's like a car. You don't necessarily floor it straight away. You build up, don't you?
Yeah.
Warp 1, warp 2, warp.
Yeah.
Yeah. A plane doesn't just hit full speed.
It'd be good if it did, wouldn't it?
It would be good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not if you lived at the end of the runway.
No.
That's it. That's the end.
Classic episode, apparently.
Yeah. Did you think it was a fair test that the Metron set?
Yeah, it was. It didn't take much. I mean, like I say, they're both Kirk and the Gorn were unimpressive in a number of ways. Yeah, so you could have killed them with a boulder. I mean, the Gorn. Is that what they're saying? The Gorn could not have come up with the potassium sulfur solution, but he could have picked up a
knife?
A massive boulder and killed Kirk.
Well, why couldn't he come up with a potassium sulfur solution?
Well, that's what I'm saying, but it wouldn't be fair then, would it? That Kirk has only got... He can't lift the boulder. He's not got the strength.
Yeah, well, maybe those substances don't exist on the Gorn's planet, so he wouldn't have recognised them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I would have liked to have seen, instead of the ending that we got, is Kirk and the Gorn realising that the Metrons are the true enemy and negotiating with one another, not fighting, refusing to fight.
That would have been good.
Yeah.
Do we see Gorns again? Is this a thing?
I don't think we do see Gorns again.
Oh, right. I thought they were...
Well, I think maybe in Enterprise they show up at one point, but not much Gorn action going forward. Apparently in the original script and in the novelisation, the Metron's plan was actually to destroy the winner because they presented the greater threat, and I think that would have been a good inclusion because it would hint that they weren't as strong as they were making out. There was maybe a bluff.
Sure.
They maybe had certain powers, they could stop the ships, they could transport, but perhaps they weren't as all-powerful as they were making out. That would have been quite a good sort of hint.
Yeah, but then you'd have to have had Kirk dying.
No, you wouldn't have had it play out. You just would have been able to find out some way. Someone would have said something, or it would have been exposed in some way.
Okay.
Sort of like the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
So when you look back to what you said at the start about finding it fascinating or not fascinating, you didn't enjoy the Gorn.
No, it's not that I didn't enjoy it, but you had mentioned, and I think if you look at the IMDb ratings, it takes a bit of a spike to an 8. So my understanding was this is an iconic or classic episode, and it sort of differentiates or lifts the standard from what we've seen before. Yeah. And to me, it didn't. And that's not a criticism. I think there's lots of other good episodes. It's not that it's dropped down to a poorer level. It's just I think that had you not mentioned that the fact that it was highly regarded, I wouldn't have just watched it and thought that myself.
It's not a highlight for you so far.
It's not a highlight, no. It's perfectly acceptable. It was good fun.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it at all. But as I said earlier, I think that the costume just doesn't, obviously for obvious reasons, does not stand up today. Yeah. But I do appreciate that back then it probably was something that you would be fascinated by.
Fair enough. I don't think we mentioned the star date for the episode.
Nope.
3045.6.
Okay.
It's basically 3456. There's not a lot of thought into that either.
No.
Any other thoughts on the episode before we get into trivia?
No, just again that Kirk swings. He either seems to be impressive or unimpressive, make good decisions or bad decisions, and sometimes actually these decisions cost lives, and he can be annoying. Which I don't. Again, it's not a criticism. I like the fact
a richer character. Yeah.
Yes, I like the fact that the hero, the protagonist, has got. He's not infallible. He does make mistakes.
Yeah, it would be dull if he got it right all the time.
Yes. So it's a positive thing, yeah.
Although the problem perhaps is that it's made out that he did get it right even when he doesn't.
Yeah, well that's the thing.
Yeah. Okay, shall I get on with some more facts and figures?
Yeah, why not? So
originally this episode aired 19th of January 1967, the year you were born.
Get away.
It was directed by Joseph Pevney. Is that a name that's familiar to you?
Nope.
This was the first of 14 Star Treks that he directed, and he would win Hugo Awards for 3 of them. Not this one, though he did earn a $500 bonus for completing shooting in 6 days rather than the scheduled 7.
Well earned.
He also directed shows like The Munsters, Mission Impossible, and Trapper John M.D.
Sure.
He died in 2008 when he was 96.
That's good.
Interesting story about the writer. So Frederick Brown is credited with the story, but he didn't actually ever write for Star Trek. Gene Kuhn, the producer, wrote this story, and it was discovered that there were certain similarities with a short story that Mr. Brown had written.
So he had to buy it.
So they had to option the short story and give him the credit. So apparently he was very happy that his story was being used for Star Trek and didn't know this was the order of things. But he made a living, Frederick Brown, from writing short stories, including apparently the shortest short story of all time, which I will now read in its entirety.
Okay.
It's called Knock. The last man on earth sat alone in a room. There was a knock at the door.
Very good.
He died in 1972 at the age of 65.
Okay.
Ted Cassidy, you'll remember him.
Big man.
He voiced the Gorn. We remember his performance as, I think, was it Ruck?
Mm-hmm.
In What Are Little Girls Made Of?
Oh, yes, with the delectable Andrea.
Yeah, we discussed him more when we looked at that episode. I think they should have had him as the body of the Gorn as well. I think it would be more imposing.
Don't see why not.
Yeah, it would have fit the description, the way that they were characterising the Gorn. Maybe it would have cost more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the Gorn did look quite muscular, whereas Big Lurch looks more lank.
Well, maybe, but they could have had a costume to, or maybe he came in after they'd already done the actual physical part of it. Carolyn Barry was the Metron who appeared on the planet at the end after Kirk speared the Gorn. She later appeared in an episode of The Next Generation and also showed up in series like Dynasty, Ironside, and Here Come the Brides.
Dynasty.
She died in 2015 at the age of 71. Gerry Ayers made the first of his 2 Star Trek appearances, this time as O'Hurley, who didn't last very long. He also appeared in shows like Dynasty, LA Law, and he had a recurring role as a PI on The Bold and the Beautiful.
It's not a dynamo, is it? You don't have it's a dynamo.
Okay, but it's a Dynasty. He died in 2013 at the age of 76.
Dynamic, it's dynamic. Dynamic. So why in there?
Tom Troop played Lieutenant Harold. I think, was he the survivor? Possibly.
Must have been.
He might be more recognisable for his work in Kelly's Heroes or My Own Private Idaho. He also appeared in shows like ER and Frasier, and he's now 92.
Oh, still going weak.
Apparently. Of course, you'd have recognised Sean Kenny, who returned for the first of his 2 appearances as DePaul, because he was the wheelchair-bound Captain Christopher Pike in The Menagerie.
Mm.
You saw him sitting next to Sulu.
Oh, was that who it was? Right. Yeah. Okay.
We discussed his bio in more detail back in The Menagerie Part 1, so if you want to hear about him, go back to that one. There's no direct Columbo connection this week, although the Gorn was the second choice for Billy Connolly's role in Murder with Too Many Notes.
Second choice?
After Billy Connolly.
Oh, they should have given it to, one of the worst Columbos, probably the worst, actually.
I'm therefore going to take this opportunity to go back to a connection that we haven't picked up on. So for the first 15 episodes that we covered, so that's everything up to and including Shore Leave, Hub Braden was an uncredited set designer. And he was never the top choice as a Columbo connection on any of those episodes, but he did work as a production designer on 3 of the later Columbos, including Murder with Too Many Notes, also Ashes to Ashes and A Trace of Murder. So we didn't get a chance to mention him before, and I'm rectifying that now. He was also art director for 176 Murder, She Wrote, as well as on the movie Steel Magnolias. He was nominated for 12 Primetime Emmys and didn't win any of them. Oh. But what you need to do is look at his trivia section on IMDb. It's the most comprehensive I've ever seen. There's dozens of entries, and I'm sure he must have written them all himself.
Or his agent did.
I'm pretty certain that's what he's done with his retirement.
Daughter, yeah.
And he also lists himself as being a 13-time Emmy nominee, but the official Emmy site only has 12, so I've gone with that figure.
Yeah. What age is he? Must be
I couldn't get any birth or death detail. I don't know if he's alive or not, or when he was born, but that's his story.
12 or 13, we'll give him that.
Plenty of nominations, yeah. Okay, other trivia. 4 different actors combined to play the Gorn.
That's a lot. You only need one.
Stuntmen Bobby Clark and Gary Combs, who were the full-body Gorn. Regular sort of fill-in backup guy Bill Blackburn did the head shots, and Ted Cassidy did the voice. This is the first episode to mention photon torpedoes, also the first episode to mention the Federation.
Is it?
Yes, that gets bulked out later on, but this is it being established now.
Right.
Shatner, Kelly and Nimoy, who were all down on the planet at the bombardment, all ended up with lifelong tinnitus after a special effects explosion during the filming of this episode.
I wonder if they were suitably compensated.
Well, who knows? I would imagine their contracts might address it. I don't know. I've already talked about the Metrons intending to destroy the winner. Human colony on Cestus 3 still exists by the time of Deep Space Nine, 100 years or 90 odd years from now, so it obviously gets re-established. And the Gorn are not a threat, or some kind of accord is reached. International titles.
Go for it.
Usual suspects this week. The Germans go for Ganz Neue Dimensionen, quite new dimensions. And our Japanese friends go with Kaiju Gontono Taiketus, which means duel with the monster Gorn.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, next to the creatures of Japanese fiction, the Gorn's maybe a bit less impressive. Next week, 19th episode, another good one of season 1. Tomorrow is Yesterday.
Doc Brown.
It's, I think, set in 60s Earth.
Is it? See, that intrigues me more than anything else. That I like. That, okay,
They
yeah.
had lots of sets from 60s Earth, given that it was filmed in the 60s on Earth.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they get on with that. In the meantime, you can get hold of us on social media. We're at Trek Podcast on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. If you're in the mood to review our show, please do it on IMDb, where we're now showing up.
You don't have to do it on an episode by episode basis.
You could just rate the whole show if you want to, or you could rate every episode separately. But I think you might need an account to get into that. If you can't be bothered with that, just tell your friends, your Star Trek loving friends, whether online or in person, to give us a listen, because we'd appreciate that also. And we will see you next week.
Cheerio.
Bye bye.